hold on. Here we go. Thanks for joining us and for agreeing to do this. We're excited. Just take it away. Show us your...
Okay, cool. All right, well, I was just going to start by just telling you real quick about me. So I'm a graphic designer by trade, and I've been a graphic designer for a long time. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from way back when. And I would say in the last couple of years, I've just been real interested in getting back into doing some kind of, you know, more fine artsy type stuff. And it's just been so much fun. And I've always loved making cards. And now such a great time because we have all this time. So everyone's home and, you know, we're not getting to see our loved ones, perhaps if they live far away or whatever, our friends. So it's a really great time to make some homemade cards, and you can really personalize them and then send them out to whomever you'd like. So I'm just going to show you a couple of cards that I've made along with my helper. And I'm just going to grab over here a few cards that we've done. And so these are, I'm just going to show them up here real quick, and then we'll go into the other view if that's okay, Christine. So these are some cards that I've done. My helper, my daughter, we've done some stuff at home, and I just really quickly showed her how to do these. So you can do these really fast, you know. I mean, some of mine I've taken a long time with, but you know, if you want to just get something done really quickly, you could do it in an hour and then, you know, be ready to send it out. So yeah, so those are some, and I gotta grab a couple more for you. So like these are some I've done in my own time, just using the same technique. And again, very easy. So I think today it'll just be fun for you to just learn how to kind of bang these out. And the ones here are like watercolor. I like mixed media, so I kind of use everything. So these are watercolor. I'm going to be doing that primarily today. These I've used acrylic, I use oil pastels, I use pencils, pens. I really use everything because I just enjoy it. You know, with the oil pastels, you can get a nice blended look. Acrylics dry really fast, whereas the oil does not. So you can do some fun stuff. But to not spend a fortune and just have some fun at home, I'm thinking we'll do some watercolor mostly today. So that's some of those, and I'll show you one more. So this I just did yesterday when we were just doing a quick demo here. So I think what would be really helpful to you to just have a couple of brushes on hand, and, you know, again, it doesn't have to be anything expensive or fancy. So I just keep a couple of brushes like this. I'm not even specifying size. I would say small. I like small brushes for the detail, and the cards are generally 4x6 that I work on, or you can do 5x7. So, you know, you can get some cardstock. You'll see I'm going to be working on this type of cardstock, which is just a pre-cut card that comes with an envelope. So I'm just really trying to make it look pretty. I'm not really doing all the cutting and all of that, but you can do that if you want to. If you don't want to, you know, spend the money on these, they're not very expensive. But some other ideas for cards, you could do a colored, you know, background, which is fun too, especially for pastels. I'm just going to scoot over. Or, you know, if you just want to use like construction paper, you don't really want to buy anything, you just want to play around, and just like my dog chewed the ends of this construction paper, so it's my scraps. But yeah, I mean, you could just use just old construction paper to play around on. You can, you know, size it to the size of your envelope, fold it, and then do your artwork on the front. So I would just have some brushes handy. I would have some water handy. I usually just put in a little cup. And I would get your watercolors or whatever medium you'd like. We're using watercolors today. Some paper towels. I always like to have some Q-tips handy because they're really good for blending. So just regular Q-tips like you'd use in your ears. Pencils, markers I mentioned, and some of the cardstock or construction paper or what have you. So those are some of the materials. So now I'm just going to get down to showing you some technique. Now there's a ton of ways you can draw your favorite picture. I've been focusing on flowers. So these are photos I've taken when I'm out walking. And for the flowers, I print them out of my inkjet. Now, if you're like a really amazing illustrator and you just want to freehand draw this, you certainly could do that. But I'm not. I'm a graphic designer, so I use the tools I have handy to make something look really, really pretty. So what I've taken was, this is one that I've done already, and I was just going to use this as an example. So as you can see, I've drawn over the actual picture. So it's a printout. So you don't want to use your original photograph because you'll ruin it. You can use an inkjet printout, or you could use tracing paper and trace over it too. For today, I'm just going to do this. And there's other ways you can do it as well to copy over, but this doesn't cost much. So we're just going to do with a regular pencil onto your inkjet printout. So we're going to see now, we want to switch views. So let's see, I don't know if Christine's going to be in charge of switching views, or that's something I do from here. But yeah, there, we got it. That's cool. So right here, can you see the paper with the graphic on it of the flower? Is that viewable? Okay, awesome. So what I do is I very simply, without using any fancy light tables, carbon tracing paper, anything else, it's just simple, anybody could do it. I have the printout, I put it down, and I literally go around. Here, I'm going to take this paper towel off so we have a little bit easier area. So I'm literally going to draw around the outline. Okay, so I'm just going around the outline of the photo. And then, you know, I'm just like coloring in the outline. I want to make it nice and dark. And I just start going around it. It's just like tracing, really, you know, just you want to get it really dark. And a good pencil, you could use graphite as well, or like a charcoal, but I've just found just like a regular pencil is good. So you're just going to kind of go around the outer edges. And to sort of expedite this, I'm going to show you, you know, how I do it and make it a little quicker, because I've had a lot that I've already transferred over. So I'm just going around the edges. And when you're done going around all the edges, then you want to get all the detail. It's a pretty simple flower, so it's nothing too complex. But if you had something really complex, obviously it would take a lot longer. So then you're going to go in and get all the details. I'm going over something that I've done already, so that's why you see the pencil marks on it. But what's nice about this is you don't need to be an illustrator. And my helper, my 9-year-old daughter, we've done a lot of these little workshops together, and it's really good for kids because you just pick it up really easily and you see results quickly. So you're going to go around and keep doing that. And you're going to get into any kind of shading you want. So this is like a darker pink, and that's a lighter pink. I'm leaving the lighter pink just plain. And in here where there's some darker markings, you know, I'm coloring it in because I want to get this nice outline because we're going to transfer it to the cardstock. We're literally using the pencil to transfer it to the cardstock. So it's just a method of getting it over there for you. And you can go around and do all the little nooks and crannies. So, and if you have a favorite picture, it doesn't have to be a flower. It can be anything. I've done a lot of dog pictures. People like their pets. You could send your friend their favorite pet. Kind of cheer people up.
Is it possible to well, since you're right-handed and your assistant is on your right, it can be a little tricky to see.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
either way?
Yeah, I'm not sure, maybe it's more overhead or from the left.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Sure. Do you want to try overhead first? Would that?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to turn back. So this was the side that we were doing, just in case you couldn't see. Thank you, assistant.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, that works. Thanks.
So thank you. I'm still figuring out all the technology.
We're all trying to figure stuff out. So.
Been interesting. So yeah, so here I was just going over, like I said, all the little nooks and crannies. Okay, so you're just really, and you're doing it really heavy-handed. Now I didn't do this for an hour. So when you're doing this part, you're gonna want to really make sure you do it good. Okay, it's gonna take more than 5 minutes. So now, if you want to, when you flip it, okay, if you want it to be right read, there's nothing on there that you would be reading, so it doesn't really matter. But if you want the image to not be flipped, what you'll need to do is a second step, which you'll need to go around, you know, this side of it, Okay, so that's why you're seeing this. So you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But so then the cardstock is here, and I'm using this heavy. It's like a brown, almost like a paper bag, and I like the way that looks. It has a really cool look with the watercolor. So you know you can kind of play around with what you like and what works for you. So now I'm going to put this over the cardstock, and if you have a sunny window or something, which I don't have in here, you can actually hold it up and you can try to like kind of align it to how you want it. But for now, I'm just kind of feeling around and I'm going, okay, this is on here. My picture is 4x6. My cardstock is 4x6, so I'm already set up. Now, I will go around all of the opposite side of the picture, okay? So again, I've done this already a few times. That's why it looks so darkened. But when you're doing this for the first time, you might have trouble seeing through. That's where a light table, or the really cheapy way, a sunny window, or a lamp, you can literally put this over and you will see through the paper a little bit better. So that's just some like kind of cheap, quick trick that you can do. Graphic designers use a lot of light tables and things like that. So I'm going around, and the idea is that as I go around this, and I have to press down really hard and really, you know, color it in with a lot of strength, it's going to transfer the pencil outline to my cardstock paper, okay? And in doing that, it's giving me a nice, you know, just like a nice reference. You know, drawing a flower like this is not very, very hard, and I could probably just quickly, you know, draw something. I'm sure you guys could too. But you know what? If I wanted to really kind of mirror what I've photographed that I really love, and I can do it super quick, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of the painting part and the coloring part. So to me, this is just kind of the necessary part to get it on that cardstock. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going around, you know, the areas that I did on the other side. And now when I'm done with this, I'll show you what it's going to look like. It may not be as dark and as well outlined as I hope. And that's because this is something I'm doing real quick now for you. So if it's not as perfect as I want it to be for my outline, I'm just going to use one that I did before, because I would expect you to spend more time on this than I am. But once we get through this sort of more mundane part, then we can get to the fun stuff with all the colors. That's my favorite. And it's like very cathartic also, just painting flowers and thinking of positive things in this time that we're going through. So, okay, so I've gone over that. And again, you know, you may have to go back, and if you didn't do it hard enough, you may have to go back and kind of, you know, redo the other side a little bit. But so I'm going to take just like a peek. Okay, so I'm taking a peek here. So I'm peeking. Now, I don't know if you can see that too good in here. So I'm going to show you one that's a lot darker, which I think will be easier for you to see. But the outline of the pencil has transferred to the cardstock, and it's okay. I'm okay with it. I could probably work with this, but what I'd like is it to be darker, so it just makes it go faster, the painting time, and makes it easier so you don't mess up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one that I've already done. Yeah, that's okay, honey. I'm just going to grab one that I've already done. I think, just bear with me 1 second. It should be in this pile. No, it's one that I have an outline on. It's probably right under here. Sorry, guys. Logistics. Let me see. Oh, I don't have it under there. Well, if I don't have it, we'll just work with that one. That's fine.
Might be right here.
There we go. Thanks, helper. All right. So this is one that I use the exact same technique that I just showed you, but you can see side by side. Hopefully you can see this one looks super light because I just did it really quick to show you. Probably maybe a half hour or more just really going over these lines. So I'm going to work with this one today just so you can see easier. And so we have it transferred now with the pencil. So now we have the outline. So this is great. Now all the guesswork is taken out of doing the flower without it. And I'll often, you know, use my photograph to look at, and this is the one I did prior, which is the same outline. And when I look at the photograph, it helps me with the lights and the darks and the shading, which I can't get out of just looking at the sketch. So I'll keep my photo handy. And for today's lesson, we're going to grab some, and these are just, I mean, these are just basic watercolor. There's nothing fancy, nothing expensive, nothing crazy about it. I just want to make it like as inexpensive and as easily accessible for everybody, because paints can become expensive. So I have just, and these been used a million times, as you can see. I just have a bunch of watercolors that I'm working with. And my goal is I want to start with the sort of the bigger areas and then get into the detail. Okay, so I have just a cup of water here that I'm going to take one of my smaller brushes, and it's just something that's good for, you know, getting into small detail. I'm going to just put it in the water, and now I don't want it to be like too watery because then it's going to run all over the place. So I'm kind of drying my brush off a little bit, and I'm thinking like, all right, well, we're going to start with, it doesn't really matter, but we're going to start with pink. So I'm going to go into the pink, and I'm going to really go in there, and I'm just going to like dab it a little and just see what it looks like. What's nice about the cardstock paper is it gives it an interesting look. I don't know if anyone's ever painted or done anything with like craft papers, but because it's brown, it has a really interesting kind of look it gives to the paints, and I like it. You know, it's almost like an opaque look, I would say. So then I go in and I'm just literally going in and painting all the sort of broad areas. And I'm going to do this, you know, quicker and probably a little less detailed than I would if it was just me, because I've got a lot of time and y'all probably don't. So yeah, so we're just going in, and you know, you can start, that's good, Ariel. Yeah, probably right about there. You can start kind of seeing, you know, it's starting to take a little bit of shape as a flower with some pretty colors in it. And I'll go around, and generally what I do is I'll start with the one color and I'll just use that throughout all the areas that I want to be that particular color. And I keep a couple other brushes handy, but with the watercolor, it's really easy. You can just wipe it off and reuse it. With the acrylics, it's a little bit different. So I'm going in. As you can see, it's not real runny. It's just kind of painting in the pink. And I'm going to show you what I do with some markers and some little mixed media on this too, just to give you an idea. I don't really follow a lot of rules when it comes to this kind of stuff. I kind of do what I think looks good, and I experiment a lot. So I just know from experimenting, like, oh, the marker can go over the watercolor, or no, you know, that won't work. So through my experimenting, you know, I know that I can take these colors here and go in, and then I can get a black marker and go around on top of it, which I'll show you. So there we have like our basic pink. And then I might just let it dry for a second or two. It's not crucial that it has to dry for a long time, but I just kind of go in like that. So say now I'm like, all right, I want to get a marker and I really want to outline this flower, and I'm looking for a dark marker in my pile of markers. So I could use a black, or I could use a really dark blue. So for this, I'm going to use a really dark blue, like a purple blue. So now I'm going to go around and I'm just kind of doing the outline of it. And this is just a style I like that really makes it pop, but you know, you can do whatever works for you. So I'm just going around. And I'm just getting the outline of it so it starts taking some kind of shape. So, and you can kind of dries as you're doing it. You don't want to smear, so I try to keep my hand off to the side. You can also use a little piece of paper under your hand if that helps. You can turn it, and sometimes if you get crazy, the paint will get on the inside a little bit, but I'm like, it's a homemade card. And you can go in right on top of the watercolor, whatever paint you're using. You can go in with these markers. These are permanent markers. I also like gel pens a lot, which I'll show you, that I use on top of the paint. So there's really no rules. It's just what works for you. So now I'm like, all right, I let that lighter pink dry a little bit. So I'm going to go back in with my paintbrush, and I'm just going to dab this off a little bit. And I'm going to try a little bit of a darker color I have. So this is like a pinkish kind of red. Now, if you're trying to emulate your photograph, you're actually trying to emulate it, you could try to match the colors and all of that. But for today, I'm just showing you real quick the kind of thing that I do. So then you can go in and just kind of shade it. And I love looking at photographs and their natural shading. And I always find that no matter where I start, whether I start from a photograph I took or something I saw online, in the end, it's really like your own creation. Because, as you go along, you do different things to it. And it's like your baby in the end. So that's what I really like about it.
Are those just regular transparent watercolors? They look pretty opaque to me.
Yeah, these are just, I don't know if watercolor is the right.
Are they gouache?
Nah, they're just, it's just some cheap art kit, like, yeah.
Cool. They just look more opaque than I was expecting on.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, and I'm using hardly any water, and it's on like a cardstock, like a crepe paper.
Sure.
Like
yeah, it's a craft paper, which is what I'm kind of more surprised. So yeah, thanks.
So yeah, it's just nothing fancy. I do have fancy paints, but I don't know why spend a fortune, right?
Oh yeah.
I just want to have a good time, just have a little fun. So yeah, so I'm just kind of, going over it and just getting some of the shading in that I like. And again, looking at the photo will give you that help if you need it. But, just kind of going in, and you can do as much or as little as you like, when you're doing this. I'm giving it kind of like the dark areas right now by just kind of highlighting one side of it. Again, I'm just winging it, but it's a great time of year to take a picture of flowers. A lot of blue bonnets were just out. And so you just kind of go in like this. Then when you get that done, and you're like, okay, I've got the sort of the darker areas, and you might want to make some highlights with some lighter. I just take my brush and dab it in a little bit of water and just get it kind of cleaned up real quick for you. Now I'm just using, that one brush, but if I want to get in a little bit closer, I have another brush that's a little smaller and no particular size, just what I like. So I'm gonna let that dry for a minute, and I'm gonna go into this area here, which I want to make kind of like a yellow. Let's see if we can get some of that. Yeah. So the one I showed you before I did with some acrylics. That just gives you a different look, but this is just super fast. So you can kind of go in and then just get your yellow in the center there. And this is a smaller brush, so it's just like a little bit easier. And then you're just going in here. And see, when I transferred it over from the photo, I got some nice little bit of detail in there that I can kind of follow around. So, but I'm a big fan of going back in and putting in more detail. So. So I'm just going in there, and I'm needing a little bit more water, so I'm just adding a little bit more water. I mean, there's no like doing this wrong, you know, it's just kind of playing around with it and finding what works for you, and having the time to do it. So, and you'd be surprised, I'll tell you, people love homemade cards. Like, I mean, I just sent one out to a friend of mine with, I did a picture of her dog, and she really liked it. So it can make people feel happy. So just to kind of do that real quick, because I could go on a long time there, but you can kind of see that I've got the yellow in there. So now as this part's dried, and it dries pretty quick, I'm like, all right, I'll let that dry. Now I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to do some little highlights. I really love to bring in other colors. So if I use a little yellow here, I like to bring in a little yellow into the petals or into the background or what have you. So I'm going to take more of the yellow with the little brush, and I'm just going to go around to get a little bit of highlight in there. So, and that's how you would kind of see it like that on the photo. I'm not looking at it, but you know, it just would have some highlights, some lowlights, you know, might have some contrast in there. You can adjust your photos too in Photoshop before you print it out if you want to, you know, get something really vibrant that you want to emulate. So I'm just kind of on the opposite side here of where I did the dark, and very quickly just doing a little bit of light yellow in there. You can be a little sloppy too, because you can always go back and fix. So, and then, you know, as you're doing it, you add water if you need water.
And the marker you used was a permanent marker?
Yeah, so I just used some permanent markers I bought on Amazon.
So
They
the
are.
color wouldn't make them bleed again if you were.
No. As long as you just take a minute or two to just kind of, you know, let it dry in between. Yeah, it works pretty good. Also, these gel pens I'm going to show you in a couple minutes is something I really like too. And if you wanted to smear, you can do that, you know, with like a Q-tip or a paper towel. Sometimes I like that to make things smear. But if that's not what you're looking for, yeah, just let it dry for a minute. It's usually pretty good. So just real quick, so there's the basic outline of it with some pretty colors. So now I'm like, you know, I want to go into the middle part, and I want to give it some detail, and I want to do some what's called stippling. And I love stippling. So what's really great for stippling are like pens and, you know, markers too. Gel, I like these gel pens a lot. And I'm going to see if I could find a nice yellow one or an orange one that we could use in the middle, or maybe even a pink. So I'm grabbing a few that I have here. And so we can try this one. So these get them on Amazon, and they can be, you know, pretty inexpensive as well. I mean, you could get a set for probably like maybe $12 or something. I like them because they're a pen, but they're also kind of like a marker, sort of rolled into one. The only thing about them is they do dry out sometimes rather quickly. So it's kind of one of those things, like when I open it, it's always a surprise. But so you can go in, and we're going to see how this works. It might be too light, but I can go in on top of the paint, and it is kind of light. So I'm like, I think we want a darker gel pen. So let me see. So we're gonna go looking through. So this one's kind of a brown.
It must be a pink.
Yeah, maybe like a pink, or I have a blue, but not.
Should we try to mix these?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, well, just for
orange.
Yeah, or an orange. Okay, well, we're gonna try a couple of them and see what's dark enough. So I have my supply. Here's like a kind of a brownish one. So this one might work better. So we're gonna go in here and I'm doing what's called stippling. So stippling is it's just making dots, really. It's a technique in art where instead of coloring it in solid and it just being, you know, really dense, with stippling, you can just kind of give like a nice effect where you might want to do some like shading with it. You might want to go from like really dark to light with it. Or you might just want to make it look like texture. And stippling gives you that. So I like to do a lot of that, and I go back and do it. Kind of like layering effect, I would say. So it kind of goes in and it gives some detail, if you can see that. But yeah, so you can do that kind of thing, and then you can go back and you could take a marker, or you could take, you know, a finer pen or whatever you like, and you can go in, and I'm just gonna move that up slightly. Yeah, there you go. And it's dry. You can go over it and get the detail. So I'm just kind of going in. You could do this with a paintbrush too, a really fine paintbrush if you wanted to use paint. I like markers and gel pens. They give me a lot of control, and I like that for the smaller little details. So just kind of, you know, just randomly picking a few areas in there that we want to like outline and highlight. And we can go around here, kind of go around it here. Okay, so it's starting to look a little more funky. And then you can go back and go back and go back. So just to here, real quick, to get some of the rest of it together. So this is a little stem. And I like the real heavy-handed outline, but again, you can do a lighter if you like, but I like the dark markers around the outside. And I'm just going around real quick and kind of outlining. Let's see if we can get a finished piece within our time frame. Now, if you were using like oil paints, it would take a really, really long time to dry. So that's the nice thing about this. You can just kind of, you know, you're just kind of going in and just defining it a little bit. Okay, so that's like your stem area, and then you have your background where you have all these lines, and I'll show you how I do that real quick. So, so for now, I'm just going to call it done with the flower, just for the moment, and I'm going to get into the stem part of it. So with the stem part of it, I'm going to make it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to use some of these paints. Whoops. So I'm just going to play around with. I want to start with a darker green to get started. And you're going to kind of see what that looks like. So if you hate it, you can always go back and go over it again. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go in here. Now this brush is a little bit big for this, so I might switch. But we want to go in here. And I like leaving a little area that's just a little bit lighter, so I can do that highlight I was showing you in here with the yellow. So that's kind of a nice way to do it. Just leave a little bit area open. So you're just very quickly getting it together here, and kind of go in and do a little bit more defining. I mean, even if I left it like that, where you saw the paper, you saw the cardstock through, it could work. It could work as well if you had a very brightly colored background and you wanted to let a yellow show through or something like that. That could be nice too. So there's a lot of possibilities. And experiment. That's what I always say. So real quick there, you have the darker green. So now I'm like, all right, I'm going to put a little bit of lighter green in for my highlight, my lighter area. So I'm just trying to get a little water in there. And so let's see if this will work. See how that is. Nah, it's still a little too light. Let's try to dab it a little bit, see if we get a little better results. Yeah, it's coming out a little bit better now. So there I go in and I'm doing my like lighter, and I'm like, you know, that brush, So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of a smaller brush here, and I can get in a little bit finer. That's a little bit easier. There. So I'm just filling in the empty areas. Now I have a pink flower. My other one was purple. So we're going in the green. Let's do a little bit more. And it's starting to take form, like it's starting to look like a flower with some real color in it. And oops. And going in here. So this is just a very quick. Now we got that little part there. I wouldn't call this very detailed. I'd call this just a very quick, get something together that looks pretty. And I think about if you were to do like a dozen of these cards, you know, if you were to sit down and do a dozen of them by hand, I can't imagine, you know, spending 6 hours or something on each one. So I think, you know, it's reasonable to do this within an hour and be kind of happy with the results. So, all right, so now I'm just going to make this little part darker. And I'm just kind of going in and just filling in that little bit of green. So there you go. So there's the outside of the flower with the stem. And so now I'm like, all right, you know, I really want more. This go back a lot. And I'm like, you know, I want more stipple in there. I want to try pink, like a marker pink stipple, because this pink just wasn't enough. So I'll go back in and I'm doing a little pink stipple now. So I'm just doing the little dots inside here, right over that paint that dried. And I'm just going in and now I'm like, you know, maybe I want to fill in a couple of these with a little pink, these little circles. It's kind of nice. So it's all about, you know, design and color and just what feels right. Oop. So I got a little bit more in there. And we can try a yellow gel marker and see how it works. Let's try. Let's see if it'll let any ink out. It's letting a little bit. They're really cool when they work. They're really, what I really like about these, and these are glitter pens too, is that they have like a nice, the glitter pens especially, you know, they have that nice little sparkle. And I like how you can go right over it. And it doesn't matter. You can go over acrylic with it too. And you could try to add in a little bit here.
Your tripod's a little off.
Oh. There you go.
Yeah, that's about as close as you can get and be in focus still.
Yeah, so yeah, really. So that's the flower. Now, you could go on and on and on. You could say, you know what, I want to put, you know, a little glitter on it. I want to, you know, you could go on as much as you like. That's sort of the basic, get the flower on there. So now I'm like, all right, I want to do something with the background, but I don't want to go crazy and, you know, have to do anything really detailed because I want the focus. The focal point is the flower. So I'm thinking background, you know, it's going to be baby greens, blues, yellow, you know, something that would complement this nicely. So I'm going to start with a darker green. And I'm going to go, all right, I'm just going to start down here. And I'm using these lines that transferred over earlier. It's just a guide. That's really all it is, just to kind of keep me on some kind of track. You don't need it, you know, you can do whatever you like with your background. I don't want my background to be too distracting. Oops, sorry. Because again, you know, the focus is supposed to be the flower, not the background. So I'm just going to go in and kind of play around with some of the colors I've used previously, some of the greens. I just, as I do this, you know, I want to think about like as I'm doing this, if I see it's just getting too close to the color of what I've used already, I'll try to lighten it up or darken it up. So usually for the backgrounds, I don't use, you know, the permanent markers or the gel pens or anything like that, because those are nice for detail. And for the background, I'm just trying to get, you know, kind of like a blurred almost kind of like look. So, and if you mess up, you can just go over it again. And that's the thing I always used to think when I was younger, was like, oh, if you do something you don't like, you throw it out. But now I realize that, you know, it's keep it. And you can always go back and rework it and have fun with it. So there's really no mistakes in art, you know? But so you can see I'm just kind of going around and getting that background in. Yeah, I'm just going through it. Is my helper tired of being my tripod, or doing a good job?
Doing great. It's almost time.
Yeah, there you go.
Shortly.
All right, well, good. Hopefully we'll just be like done with this right on the nose. Well, I guess if there's any questions anybody wants to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Open it.
A couple minutes.
Yeah. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask them.
Yeah, let's see. Why do you put your marker like between your colors as opposed to just waiting till the very end and then outlining?
Sure, you could do it that way too. I like to do it as I go along because I'm really anxious to see how it's coming out. And it really helps me visualize when I do it in between. And it kind of helps me tell like, oh, I want a little more of this color, or, you know, I want to change something or tweak something. I'm not going to be tweaking the marker, obviously, because it's permanent, but it kind of opens my eyes to the colors around it and how I might want to adjust them. But yeah, you could do it at the end. Sure. I think it's nice to know that you can use a lot of different things on this and, you know, it not bleed, as long as you just, you know, make sure you let it dry for a minute, but it dries so quickly.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm just going to fill this in, and if anybody else has any questions until Christine tells me that my time is up.
So
But
your
yeah.
studio is in your house, or do you have like a separate area to work
Yeah.
at?
So at the moment, I'm in my house. So I used to go into Austin, and I had like a shared space where I would do graphic design, and I don't have that any longer. So yeah, I'm currently working out of my house. I don't know, you know, I don't have a lot of room, so I may at some point, you know, want to have a little space. It's definitely hard the more stuff you acquire, you know, and you need a lot of room when you're painting and doing all this kind of stuff. So, but I don't have clients, you know, coming to the house or anything like that. Most of my graphic design clients are national or in the city. So definitely couldn't have them come to the house.
You would have to clean, right?
Yeah, well, I have 3 kids, and you know, so I'm just kind of filling in. And you could, you know, if you wanted to, you're like, oh, I want to add a little bit of another color in here. You know, I don't want it to be so, you know, sort of monochrome, or so, you know, hey, I'm gonna pull in a little orange, or, you know, a little pink or something like that. So you certainly can do that. What I like about these paints is they're just so easy, like to just, you know, put it down real quick, go over it real quick. No dry time, you know, really very minimal. So, and you know, I think as long as you wash your brushes in the end, pretty quickly I would wash them. I wouldn't let them sit around. You'll be okay. I mix a lot of colors together. I'm not, you know, that particular about using a million different brushes and things, but it's pretty forgiving, you know. Now, oil's a different story though. That, you know, you probably want to use a solvent or something to. This stuff's better for the environment too, so.
So do you use oil pastels sometimes?
I do. And actually, I could give you a really, if we have like 5 minutes, I could give you a really quick example of how I do that kind of thing.
Sure.
You just tell me when I run out.
Yes.
So yeah, so if I wanted to add oil pastel to this, let's say, and I was like, you know, I want to go in and do something with the flower. The nice thing about these oil pastels is the blending. So you could go in and I'm just randomly grabbing like a pink color here because it kind of matches. But, you know, I could go in here and I could say I wanted to darken this and I wanted to make it more, like just pop more and have like a smoother texture. I could go in with this oil pastel and just color over it. But, you know, maybe I want to blend it a little bit. I mean, that's the nice thing about oil pastels. So I love Q-tips. They're great. So you can just, you know, kind of just blend it over and just kind of spread the color over what you already have there. And depending on what's going on underneath it, it may spread better, you know, then sometimes it may spread better and other times depending on what kind of paint you're using underneath it and stuff. But I love how you can just go in and make an area pop real fast. And yeah, so, and you can outline with it. You could, I mean, there's so much you can do. They're fat, you know, the oil pastel. So, you know, it's hard to get in with like really close detail, but for kind of the broader areas.
Would you use fixative after you used an oil pastel, or are they fine to just go?
Yeah, so if you're using a lot of oil pastels, like if you're just doing a little touch up, I think you're okay, you know, to just let it be. But if you were using, like I have some oil pastel pictures I've done, that's all it is pretty much. Yeah, I definitely would use a fixative spray over it. It's a little chemically smelling, you know, so outside is your best bet. There are other ways. If you, like, this is something you would give to somebody, you would mail it, you would write a little note inside. But if it was something you were hanging on the wall in oil pastels, I know there's some other tricks where you can avoid having to use a chemically spray, you know, where you frame it in such a way. But yeah, if you're going heavy on it, yeah, I would spray it. If you're sending it out to somebody, yeah, definitely.
Cool, thanks.
So that's the general gist of it. It's not completely finished, but I think that kind of helps give you the idea how you could do something really quick and, you know, it look pretty and make people feel happy, you know, and send it out to be original. Again, anything you want to do, it doesn't have to be flowers.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Anything else I can tell you, or?
I don't know, does anybody else have any other questions?
So try it. Try it, experiment, have some fun. You've got a lot of time right now.
Absolutely. And also we're recording it, and we've just started, the San Marcos Art League just started a little Vimeo account, and so we're putting all these recorded demos up in that account. So you can always go back and just drop in and check out whatever part you may have missed or you want to see again. So we'll keep these, you know, available for folks. So yeah, if nobody else has any other questions, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I don't see any hands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining today. It was fun.
Yes, thank you to the human tripod too. I really appreciate it.
Ariel, we're gonna get a tripod in the future. All right.
Thank you, Christine, for setting them up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being there.
All right.
Thank
Take care. Stay well.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.